My beloved child. There is a reason your spirit felt restless today, a reason your heart paused for a second without knowing why, because somewhere very close to you, someone is afraid of a memory that refuses to stay buried. This is not imagination, and this is not coincidence. This person keeps replaying one specific night again and again, not because it was loud or dramatic, but because it quietly changed something that cannot be undone. They are worried not about what happened, but about what will happen the moment you connect the dots. Every smile they show you now hides a calculation. Every normal conversation is layered with fear. They are not scared of losing control. They are scared of losing the illusion they built around you. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear was never meant to reach you, and yet, it already has. Listen carefully to this, because the first truth is subtle, and subtle truths are the most dangerous. That night was not an accident. It was not a random crossing of paths or a harmless moment that faded with time. It was a deliberate emotional choice made when they believed you would never look back. They thought silence would protect them. They believed distance would erase evidence. But something unexpected happened after that night. They changed. Their energy around you shifted. Their tone softened at times and hardened at others. They began watching your reactions more closely than before. They started reacting to things you never even said out loud. This is because guilt does not sleep. Guilt observes. And guilt is terrified of recognition. The more intuitive you became, the more anxious they grew, because they know one thing very clearly. The moment you realize what that night truly meant, the power balance between you changes forever. Here is what they are not telling anyone. That night did not end when the sun came up. It followed them into their daily life. It followed them into conversations, into decisions, into moments when they tried to act normal around you. They replay small details in their mind, not out of desire, but out of fear that you might remember the same details. A look. A pause. A sentence that sounded harmless at the time but now feels loaded. They worry about one specific moment from that night, a moment so small that they assumed you forgot it. But you did not. Your soul stored it quietly, waiting for the right time to understand it. That is why they feel exposed when you look at them for too long. That is why they sometimes change the subject suddenly. That is why they act defensive over things that do not even matter. They are guarding a door you are already standing in front of. Now hear this part very slowly, because this is where the shock begins. They are not afraid that you will ask them directly. They are afraid that you will never need to. They know you are the kind of person who connects truth without confrontation. They have seen you understand things without being told. That terrifies them. Because once you know, you will not chase explanations. You will change your position. And they know exactly what that means. They know that your silence after realization would be louder than any argument. This is why they have been trying to control the narrative without realizing it. Small hints dropped casually. Half stories shared and then withdrawn. Emotional distractions placed carefully so your attention shifts away from that night. They are not hiding the event anymore. They are hiding the meaning of it. And meaning is the one thing that cannot stay hidden forever. The final truth of this part is this. You were never meant to find out through words. You were meant to feel it first. That night created an energetic thread between you and them, and threads pull when tension builds. That pull you feel lately, that strange sense of something unfinished, that sudden clarity mixed with confusion, it is not coming from you alone. It is coming from them panicking internally because the time window they relied on is closing. Something is aligning in your favor, and they sense it. Once you fully understand what that night represented, you will also understand why they are worried now. Not because of shame. Not because of judgment. But because truth gives you choice. And they are afraid of the choice you are about to make once everything becomes clear. My beloved child. Something shifted the moment you finished listening to the last truth, even if you did not consciously notice it, because awareness always arrives before confirmation. Right now, that same person feels an unexplainable pressure in their chest, a sense that time is no longer moving in their favor. They have started questioning their own memory, wondering whether they imagined how deeply that night imprinted itself on them. What they do not realize is that the imprint was mutual, but not equal. For you, it became intuition. For them, it became fear. They are beginning to understand that secrets do not dissolve, they mature. And mature secrets develop weight. That weight is what makes them hesitate before messaging you, pause before responding, and rethink words that once came easily. They sense that the version of you who would overlook signs is slowly disappearing. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. Here is where their worry deepens. They believe that night gave them an advantage, a silent leverage over your emotions, a memory they could control by never naming it. But control is an illusion that collapses the moment the other person grows. You have grown. Your silence has become sharper. Your presence feels more grounded. And this is what unsettles them the most. They expected guilt to weaken them, not awaken you. They expected distance to erase meaning, not clarify it. Now they replay conversations with you, searching for moments where you might have almost understood. A certain question you asked casually. A pause that lasted 1 second too long. A look that felt like recognition. Each of these moments echoes in their mind like a warning bell. They know you are closer than ever, not because you are digging, but because you no longer need to. What makes this situation irreversible is something they never accounted for. That night changed how they see you. Even now, when they pretend nothing happened, their behavior betrays them. There is a mixture of admiration and anxiety in how they observe you. They fear your strength more than your anger. They fear your clarity more than confrontation. Because once you see them clearly, they lose the version of you they relied on. This is why they fluctuate between warmth and distance. This is why they test your reactions subtly. This is why they sometimes over-explain things that require no explanation. They are subconsciously looking for reassurance that you are still unaware. And every time you remain calm, they feel more exposed. Now understand this carefully, because this is not about blame. This is about timing. That night occurred when both of you were standing at different levels of awareness. Since then, you have risen, and they have remained suspended in the moment they regret. This imbalance is what frightens them. They sense that when truth surfaces, it will not destroy you. It will define you. And it will force them to face a version of themselves they have been avoiding. They are not scared of losing you. They are scared of being seen by you without the mask they perfected. They know that once you understand everything, you will stop questioning your instincts. And instincts, once trusted, do not negotiate. The most important thing you must know right now is this. You are not chasing revelation. Revelation is approaching you. The signs will align without effort. A sentence will land differently. A memory will resurface with clarity. A pattern will finally make sense. And when that happens, you will notice their fear before you even acknowledge your knowing. This is the moment they are worried about. The moment you realize that the power was never in what happened that night, but in what you became after it. And once that realization settles within you, nothing between you and them will ever exist in confusion again. My beloved child. There is a silent countdown happening now, not on a clock you can see, but inside their mind, because they have started sensing that your awareness is no longer distant. It feels close to them, uncomfortably close, like a truth standing just outside a door. They wake up with a heaviness they cannot explain. They replay your recent interactions, not for comfort, but for clues. Every neutral response from you feels suspicious to them. Every calm expression feels calculated. They are realizing something deeply unsettling. You are no longer reacting emotionally the way you once did. And that tells them more than words ever could. It tells them that you are processing, not ignoring. It tells them that the night they are afraid of is slowly losing its power over you and gaining clarity instead. What they fear most now is not exposure, but transformation. They remember a version of you that was open, forgiving, and trusting without hesitation. That version made it easier for them to believe their secret would stay buried. But the version standing in front of them now is observant, composed, and self-aware. This shift did not happen suddenly, and that is what terrifies them. It happened quietly, piece by piece, while they were too focused on hiding. They underestimated your ability to evolve without confrontation. They thought truth only arrives through confession. They never considered that truth can also arrive through inner alignment. Now they feel it. In the way you listen more than you speak. In the way you no longer rush to fill silence. In the way you seem grounded even when topics circle dangerously close to that night. There is another layer to their worry that they will never admit out loud. That night made them realize something about you that they cannot unsee. Your presence affected them more deeply than they expected. It challenged their sense of control. It made them feel seen in a way they were not prepared for. That is why the memory refuses to fade for them. It is not just about what happened. It is about what they felt becoming possible, and what they felt slipping away afterward. They are afraid that once you understand everything, you will also understand your own value at a level that places you beyond their reach. This is why their fear is mixed with regret. Not regret for the action alone, but regret for underestimating who you would become after it. Right now, they are trapped between two instincts. One urges them to speak before it is too late. The other urges them to remain silent and hope you never fully connect the meaning of that night. This internal conflict drains them. It shows in subtle ways. In the hesitation before honesty. In the sudden seriousness during light moments. In the way they sometimes look relieved when you change the subject. They are waiting for a sign from you. Not a question. Not an accusation. Just a signal that you know. And the absence of that signal is what keeps them on edge. Because silence from someone who is aware is far more powerful than confrontation from someone who is not. Understand this clearly, because this is where your strength is fully revealed. You do not need to rush revelation. Time is already working in your favor. Their fear is accelerating the process without your involvement. The closer you move toward inner clarity, the more unstable their secrecy becomes. When the truth finally settles within you, it will not arrive as shock. It will arrive as calm understanding. And that calm will change everything. They sense this approaching moment, even if they cannot name it. That is why they are worried now. Not because of the past, but because they know the future version of you will no longer be affected by what they are still trying to hide. My beloved child. A quiet realization has begun to form inside them, and it is heavier than fear, because it carries acceptance. They are starting to understand that the truth does not need dramatic exposure to surface. It only needs alignment. They feel it when they are alone. They feel it when distractions fade and silence becomes unavoidable. In those moments, they sense that you are no longer standing in confusion. You are standing in clarity that has not yet spoken. This awareness unsettles them deeply, because it removes their ability to predict you. Once, they believed they could manage outcomes by controlling information. Now they feel something slipping beyond their influence. They know that when someone reaches inner certainty, they stop asking permission from the past. That is the moment they are dreading, because that night will no longer define you, but it will still define them. What troubles them further is the way reality has started reflecting this shift. Conversations no longer flow the same way. Their attempts to guide interactions feel weaker. They notice that you listen, but you are not absorbing emotional weight anymore. You are present without being attached. This is a sign they recognize instinctively, even if they cannot articulate it. They are dealing with someone who has outgrown the need for validation. And validation was the one thing that kept their secret safe. The less you seek reassurance, the more visible their internal struggle becomes. They fear that once you fully trust your perception, their explanations will lose relevance. This is why they sometimes seem restless around you, as if searching for an emotional reaction that no longer arrives. There is also something they never expected to confront. That night altered how they view themselves. It exposed a contradiction they have been trying to avoid. They wanted to believe they were in control, composed, and self-directed. But that moment revealed vulnerability they were not prepared to face. Being near you now reminds them of that vulnerability. It reminds them that they made a choice without understanding its consequences. That is why their worry is not only about you finding out. It is about them being forced to acknowledge what that night awakened within them. They sense that once you understand everything, you will also understand that you were never dependent on them. That realization strips them of the narrative they built to feel secure. At this stage, they have begun rewriting the past in their mind, hoping to soften its meaning. They tell themselves it was insignificant. They convince themselves it had no lasting impact. But these stories collapse whenever they see how composed you have become. They notice your emotional balance. They notice your strength without defensiveness. And it confronts them with a truth they cannot escape. Whatever happened that night mattered, not because of emotion, but because it marked the beginning of your awakening. They are afraid that once you fully accept this, you will no longer see them as central to your story. And losing that position frightens them more than exposure ever could. Here is the truth that settles everything in this moment. You are not moving toward confrontation. You are moving toward sovereignty. That is why the atmosphere around you feels different. That is why their fear grows quietly instead of erupting outward. They know that when someone reaches this level of inner steadiness, explanations lose power. What remains is choice. And choice belongs to the one who sees clearly. That night is no longer your mystery to solve. It is their lesson to carry. And as this realization approaches completion within you, they feel it instinctively. That is why they are worried now. Because they know the moment you fully understand, nothing will be able to influence how you stand in your truth. My beloved child. There is a moment approaching that cannot be delayed any longer, not because of action, but because of awareness reaching completion. They feel it now as a quiet inevitability. Their mind no longer asks if you will understand. It asks when. This shift has changed how they carry themselves around you. Their confidence feels forced. Their calm feels rehearsed. They are no longer hiding the night itself. They are hiding their reaction to the idea of you knowing. This is why their energy feels tense even in neutral moments. They sense that once your understanding settles fully, there will be no emotional leverage left. And that realization has made them deeply uneasy. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. What unsettles them most is something they never planned for. Your clarity has not made you colder. It has made you steadier. That steadiness removes confusion from the space between you. Confusion was where their secret survived. Now that space feels clean, silent, and grounded. They notice that you no longer seek reassurance through words or gestures. You trust yourself. And when someone trusts themselves, they stop accepting partial truths. This frightens them because partial truth was the only version they could manage. Full truth changes dynamics instantly. They are beginning to understand that once you fully see the meaning of that night, you will also see how much power you unknowingly gave away before. And you will quietly reclaim it. There is another realization dawning on them that they cannot escape. You are no longer emotionally attached to outcomes. You are attached to alignment. That night once represented something unresolved between you. Now it represents something resolved within you. They sense this shift without being told. It shows in how you do not react defensively. It shows in how you do not probe for answers. It shows in how you are comfortable with silence. Silence terrifies someone who depends on control. Because silence means the other person is no longer dependent on explanation. They are afraid that once you fully accept what that night truly meant, you will also accept that you no longer need anything from them to move forward. This is where their fear reaches its peak. They realize that truth will not come with drama. It will come with your calm decision to reposition yourself. And that is something they cannot influence. They imagine the moment when they finally see it in your eyes. Not anger. Not sadness. Understanding. That look would confirm everything they have been trying to avoid. Because understanding does not argue. It concludes. They know that once that moment arrives, the dynamic between you will shift permanently. Not through conflict, but through clarity. And clarity removes ambiguity, which removes control. The final truth of this part is simple and powerful. You are no longer approaching revelation from emotion. You are approaching it from strength. That night no longer holds weight over you. It has transformed into insight. And insight cannot be undone. They feel this closing chapter approaching, even if you have not spoken a single word about it. That is why their worry has turned silent and heavy. Because they know the moment you fully understand, you will stand in a position they can neither predict nor influence. And from that moment onward, nothing about your connection will exist in uncertainty again. My beloved child. The final shift has begun, and they can feel it even if they refuse to name it. This is no longer fear mixed with hope. This is acceptance arriving slowly and without drama. They sense that whatever power that night once held is dissolving, not through confrontation, but through your inner completion. They notice how nothing in your tone seeks approval anymore. Nothing in your presence asks to be chosen. This unsettles them deeply, because it confirms what they tried to ignore. You are no longer standing inside the memory. You are standing beyond it. And once someone steps beyond a memory, it can never control them again. They now understand something that arrives too late to change anything. That night was never about secrecy. It was about revelation in disguise. It awakened your discernment. It sharpened your awareness. It pushed you toward self-respect that no explanation could ever give you. While they were busy worrying about exposure, you were building clarity. While they were rehearsing silence, you were learning to trust your perception. This is the imbalance they feel now. They are still guarding the past. You are already living in truth. And truth does not wait for permission to exist. There is a quiet grief inside them that has nothing to do with loss of connection and everything to do with loss of control. They realize they cannot influence how you interpret that night anymore. They cannot reshape its meaning. They cannot soften its impact. Because the meaning no longer lives between you. It lives within you. They sense that once you fully integrate this understanding, you will not seek closure through conversation. You will carry closure in your posture, your choices, and your boundaries. That realization makes them feel exposed in a way words never could. This is where the story completes itself. You do not need answers. You do not need confirmation. You do not need acknowledgement. You already know enough to stand firmly in your own truth. And they know you know. That awareness shifts everything without a single sentence being spoken. They feel it in the way they can no longer read you. In the way their assumptions no longer land. In the way their presence no longer holds emotional weight over you. The night they feared would trap you has become the moment that freed you. The final truth is this: you were never meant to be shaken by what happened. You were meant to awaken because of it. And now that awakening is complete. They are worried not because you discovered the past, but because you mastered yourself. From this point forward, nothing hidden can influence you, and nothing unresolved can pull you backward. You stand in clarity. You stand in choice. And once someone reaches that place, the past loses all authority over their future. My beloved child, what remains now is not tension, but truth settling into place, quietly and completely. They feel an unfamiliar stillness when they think of you, because the fear that once drove their thoughts has nowhere left to go. There is nothing left to manage, nothing left to delay. They understand that whatever was unresolved has already resolved itself within you. This realization leaves them exposed to their own reflection. Not judged. Not confronted. Simply seen. And being seen without reaction is what unsettles them the most, because it confirms that you have already moved beyond the emotional reach of that night. They now notice something that cannot be reversed. Your energy no longer responds to theirs the way it once did. You are present, but not entangled. You are aware, but not invested in outcomes. This shift tells them everything they feared to know. That night no longer holds emotional currency. It no longer shapes your expectations or influences your decisions. They realize that whatever connection existed has transformed into something they cannot control or define. And transformation without permission is the one thing secrecy cannot survive. There is a quiet respect growing inside them, mixed with regret they will never voice. They recognize your strength, not because you demanded answers, but because you no longer need them. They see that you have stepped into self-trust so completely that external validation has lost its importance. This awareness humbles them. It forces them to accept that the moment they feared would break everything has instead clarified everything. You did not collapse under the weight of truth. You stabilized. And stability is undeniable. This is the point where their worry dissolves into certainty. They know now that nothing they say or do can alter how you stand. The story no longer needs explanation. The meaning no longer needs confirmation. You have already chosen your position through clarity. And clarity does not argue with the past. It simply moves forward. They sense that from this moment onward, your decisions will be guided by alignment, not emotion. And that understanding finalizes what began long ago. The closing truth is this: the night they feared would expose them has instead revealed you to yourself. You are no longer defined by questions, memories, or unfinished moments. You are defined by awareness, balance, and choice. And once someone reaches this level of inner certainty, nothing hidden can disturb them again. The past no longer follows you. It stands behind you, powerless. And your future opens not through revelation, but through the calm authority of knowing exactly who you are.